Today is March 13th, 2022, and I'm sure like a lot of you, I will never forget March 13th of 2020. It's the day that changed my world forever. It was a day unlike any I had ever seen up to that point. Now, of course, leading up to it, we had all heard about this COVID-19, most of which occurred in other countries. And it was a sad thing, and it was something scary for those countries, but thankfully it wasn't happening here. There was a build-up and people were getting more concerned, but for the most part, everything was operating normally, including the court system. Now, I remember that day was a Friday the 13th, but I also remember it started off as a fairly good day. We had a sentencing hearing in Suffolk Superior Court in Boston, where my client got the lowest possible sentence he could get on a very serious set of charges that he had been convicted of, and much less than the prosecutor had asked for, and frankly, much less than I thought he was going to get. So it was not a happy occasion, but it was a relief, and it was a result that was as best as we could get. Enough so that the client was thankful, that the family was thankful, and I remember we were exchanging handshakes, and I got some hugs from the client's family because, again, it was the lowest possible sentence we could get after a hard-fought battle. I remember then I go to Salem, I have a 2 o'clock hearing in court for another client, and I go there at probably 1:45. I go to walk in the door, and the court officer says, no, we're closed. And these guys are sometimes just funny. You know, they're nice. Everyone likes court officers. I thought he was joking with me because it's Friday afternoon. I said, I know. I wish I could go early, but I got court. And he said, no, I'm serious. We're not allowing anyone in. We're closed for COVID. It took me a little while to process because in my experience, court had only been closed for like snow days. The court was never closed. And so after I processed, I asked him how long, and he said, well, it's just going to be a couple of days. We're closing today, the rest of the day, and then we're closing Monday. Should be back open on Tuesday of next week, and then we will give you a call. The clerk's office will reschedule the hearings. So I thought, okay, things are going to be back to normal in 2 days. Well, of course, that 2 days turned into 2 weeks. Everybody was home, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Court was closed again. Everything that I had scheduled was just moved. To when? Nobody knows. And while I was trying to process that and explain that to clients, I thought, all right, 2 weeks, I can handle that. And 2 weeks turned into 2 months. The court system remained closed to the public, and we got by with phone calls, phone hearings. It wasn't till much later that we started doing Zoom hearings and establishing some more normalcy. I remember even doing some hearings where I would be cross-examining witnesses on the phone. Thankfully, I got good results. Otherwise, there might be appellate issues for whether or not that constitutes adequate confrontation. In any case, I remember that these 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into 2 months, and now here we are 2 years later, and we're still dealing with COVID. Thankfully, the rates of infection seem to have slowed substantially, but in the court system, we are still doing a hybrid. The best thing to come out of COVID, in my experience, has been the Zoom hearings. In fact, as a criminal attorney, I'm going into court for cases every month or every couple of months, often just to report to the judge that, yeah, we're getting the discovery we've asked for. We're either waiting for something or we're doing some investigating. We're going to need another month or another couple of months, or the prosecutor needs another month or another couple of months, and then we come back. There's a lot of just check-ins. So for those court dates, rather than having to drive an hour or 2 hours and then wait around for hours in court just for the case to be called and then drive back, we're saving an awful lot of time, which is great for us, it's great for the clients, and I hope that sticks around. And thankfully, we are back in person for a lot of things like jury trials. And since COVID, I have done a lot of jury trials. In fact, I did one of the very first jury trials post-COVID. I think it was the longest jury trial to date. It was a 4-day jury trial on a motor vehicle homicide case. It was down in Quincy District Court, but they had it in Randolph at an event space. It was an event space that my client had actually had his high school graduation in. And it was a beautiful place. In fact, there was a chandelier above the judge's stand, and that was great because we got a not guilty on behalf of the client. So that started the momentum back to some normalcy after over a year with no jury trials. And since then, I've had some big cases go to trial. I've had a number of cases go to trial. But still, with the masks, and depending on the courtroom and the courthouse, we've got these huge plexiglass separations. So it's still not normal. The jury's still wearing masks. Witnesses can take off their mask or can leave it on. Attorneys can take off their mask when they're arguing or can leave it on. And it's a little bit more normal. I'm glad we're getting back to jury trials, because I think without jury trials, there's no justice, or very little justice, or at least less justice. And I can't speak for everybody, but I know that I'm ready to get back to normal.